Olá, nós estamos no Culturarte e hoje nós temos aqui conosco o professor Alessandro Portelli e a professora Telma Bessa. Eles vão nos falar um pouco sobre o trabalho do professor Alessandro Portelli. O professor Alessandro Portelli é uma das pessoas mais importantes no cenário da teoria da história e principalmente para os estudiosos de história oral. A sua contribuição dentro da história tem sido vista como uma das mais importantes dos últimos anos, especialmente porque tem aberto campos para os historiadores que antes aparentemente não estavam legitimados pela própria ciência da história. Nesse sentido, é um grande prazer e uma honra imensa termos o professor Portelli aqui em Sobral e aqui conosco. Professor Portelli, a primeira pergunta que eu teria a fazer é se o senhor se sente como professor de história e historiador ou se sente como professor de literatura.
Well, it's a good question. What I get paid for is teaching literature. And in fact, I came to the work of oral history through an interest in narrative. I was not trained as a historian, but I was interested in the history of the working classes of the rural population and the culture of the non-hegemonic classes. So when I realized that a lot of the memory and the meaning and the expression was couched in narrative form, I was able to use my training in literature to offer a reinterpretation of folk narrative, of oral history as narrative, which means that on the one hand, of course, you work like a historian. That is, you want to find out what happened, and you want to make sure that to verify whether what people say is actually true or not. On the other hand, you're interested in the creativity of the storytelling, which means that even when the stories are not factually true, they are in fact full of meaning. And so, to answer your question, I'm not a historian because it takes a whole other kind of training to be a real historian. But what I do mainly, I work along the borders between literatures, between disciplines, between literature, between anthropology, between history, this borderland where they all come together, which is, in the study of memory and narrative.
O professor Alessandro Portelli também tem uma atuação extramuros, como nós falamos. É uma atuação na sociedade. E ele é presidente de um centro cultural, onde tem música, literatura, biblioteca. Professor Portelli, fale para nós um pouco sobre o Círculo Gianni Bosio.
Okay, well, the Circolo Gianni Bosio. Circolo means club, association. And Gianni Bosio was, again, I don't know whether he was a historian. He was mainly a cultural organizer. And he was one of the founders of oral history and the folk music revival in Italy. So the people that created the Circolo Bosio in Rome were all somehow working in his tradition. We began with folk music, collecting the traditional and contemporary music of working people in and around Rome and central Italy, both as art, as artistic expression, and as a source for history. What I mean is songs are one of the ways in which working people have shaped the story of their experience, so that it was very easy in a way to move from folk music to oral history, especially when we realized that traditional singers do not just sing the song, they also tell the story. So we created this this archive, which is one of the largest archives in Italy of oral history and folk music. It's an international archive. That is, we recorded some rebentistas in Fortaleza the other day, so that will go into the archive. But it's mainly focused on central and southern Italy. We do a series of CDs, records. We've done a couple of films and seminars, workshops, and we have a music school where we teach traditional instruments, and we have a choir that does traditional and political songs. All of it is, I would say, very much linked with the traditions of the working class movement, of the left, and of alternative cultures.
Professor, o trabalho do Círculo Gianni Bosio parece ser dos trabalhos mais ricos em termos de tornar aquilo que a academia faz em uma produção pública e, de certa forma, social. Como você vê a relação entre a produção científica e a cultura popular?
Well, in the first place, I think what we need to do is to document the forms of expressions and behavior and the history and the memory, and to do this in the most advanced state-of-the-art form. That is, to record. We mostly work with sound, but we're also doing some visual. So to record it with the best technology we have, and to study it and analyze it with the most advanced theoretical tools. On the other hand, however, the aim of this work is not to produce academic papers or works. The aim is public culture, which means that whatever we do is aimed at the general public. We publish books or CDs that we try to make as rigorous, as accurate from the, that no academic can find fault with. On the other hand, they had to be readable. They had to be clear, so that the general reader can use them, and also in some ways so that the singers, the storytellers themselves, can see what was done with their work. So basically, we're not doing much with the web, because in a way we're still concerned with the fact that if you put something on the web, then anyone can do anything with it. Mm-hmm. So we feel that we have a responsibility to the narrators, to the singers. We have to make sure that their stories, their songs, their lives are not used in ways that can demean them, mm-hmm. that can do them harm. So at this point, we're not placing much on the web, but we're encouraging access to our archive. Mm-hmm. And we're having, for one thing, a number of very important new artists in the field of theater have been using our stories and creating theater out of the oral narratives. And of course, the best folk singers have also used our articles, our archives, so that what we can do is sort of we do not give voice to the voiceless because they give voice to us, but we can sort of amplify that voice so that it can be heard beyond their community. It can be heard by people who would not hear it before, otherwise.
That's interesting.
Professor, além da sala de aula, além do trabalho na presidência do Círculo de Anibósio, o senhor também tem um blog. E nesse blog o professor afirma que as suas paixões são a igualdade, né, a liberdade, a memória, né, trabalho com a memória e também ouvir as pessoas. Então eu perguntaria para o senhor, qual o seu sentimento ao ouvir as pessoas do Brasil, do Nordeste e do Ceará?
Well, the problem there is a language barrier, for one thing. I keep saying that I should learn Portuguese a lot better, but at this point like, you know, we were talking about the repentistas the other day. Well, I could understand just a little bit of their verbal art, of their humor, but I could see how, how full of sense of humor they were, and of course the rhythm, the timing, the relationship was very exciting. So, in a way, my feeling has always been that listening is constant discovery. You keep hearing things that you don't know. You keep hearing things that you don't expect, and somehow you become another person. And listening requires a sense of equality. If you feel that you're superior to the other person because you're a professor and that person may be illiterate, then you don't understand. Because, of course, if you're doing the interview, it's because this person, they may be illiterate, but they know things that you don't know. And so the interview itself becomes sort of a utopian moment in which people who are not treated as equals by capitalist society relate to each other as equals in an exchange, because of course the interview means that I'm listening to that person, but that person is also looking at me, and maybe sometimes even listening at me. It's an exchange. So the exchange can only take place if there's some kind of equality and mutual acceptance. And so that's the other thing that makes me feel good when you do an interview. You have a sense that that the social inequalities are being suspended, and that you're dealing with this person the way you would if the world was a world of freedom and equality, which, of course, is what we're working for.
Eu fico maravilhada com o que diz. Na realidade, a relação do entrevistado e do entrevistador é extremamente complexa. E eu já vi que alguns dos seus trabalhos vão tratar exatamente dessa relação. O que é que você sugeriria para um jovem estudante de história querendo fazer história oral? Qual seria uma recomendação?
Well, the first thing I would recommend is you must really want to know. If you're doing just because it's an assignment or something, then it will probably not turn out as well, because people can tell whether you really want to know about them, and what you're bringing to the conversation is your ignorance. I remember very well this lady in Kentucky. she was working in the coal mines, and she says, well, the reason people talk to you is because you don't know anything, and therefore they're glad to help you. And it's exactly the other way around, you know. So you bring to the conversation the fact that there are things that you do not know, there are things that you really personally want to know, not academically.
Mm-hmm.
This is not academic work, even though, of course, it also works for the academy, but and also flexibility. I mean, many times I've gone into an interview because I thought that the person was interesting because they knew certain things, and we ended up speaking about something else entirely, because it turns out that they wanted to talk about something else. So you had to, in a way, you had to be patient, and you had to wait it out, and sometimes you find that it's more interesting than what you went
to do in the first
what you were looking for in the first place. So, an authentic desire to know, flexibility, a lot of respect, and that's about it. Good manners. Remembering, in most cases, you're doing the interview in this person's home, so you're a guest. You're using their space. You're using their time. Of course, what are you giving them is your time. In many cases, especially old people or working people, they have a sense that nobody listens to them. So here you are, you're open and you're listening to them, and this is what you give back for all the treasures that they give you.
Professor, o senhor esteve várias vezes no Brasil, no Rio de Janeiro, no Encontro Internacional de História Oral, várias vezes em São Paulo, participou em Ilhéus, na Bahia, de um Encontro Nacional de História Oral, e sempre nos inspira a desenvolver um trabalho com os nossos alunos, utilizando a metodologia da história oral. Então, quais as questões mais importantes do ponto de vista da ética que o senhor falaria para quem está desenvolvendo um trabalho com história oral?
Well, basically, the most important question is, you've been given a gift of language, of knowledge, so you should treat this gift with respect, and not use it in ways that may somehow demean or insult the person that has helped you. So ultimately, one of the reasons I don't work with the Circolo Bosio is not an academic institution, so we do not very often we do not get formal releases and permissions to use the material. We ask on tape, can I use it? Can I put it in the archive? Can other people use it? And people will say yes. However, the fact that we do not have legal permission means that whatever we do, we have to check back with the interviewees, or if we can't, we have to make absolutely sure that it will not offend them. We're not protecting ourselves, so that we have to make absolutely sure that what we do is correct. And again, it's personal respect, it's a respect for truth. The other thing is, because a lot of oral history work is politically motivated, then we have to be very careful not to turn research into propaganda. Our task, if we believe, as Antonio Gramsci and others did, that truth is revolutionary, well, we have to accept the unpleasant truths, and we have to deal with them. And in many ways, we need to, there's a great expression that some of the pacifist churches use in the United States. Speak truth to power. Okay, we must speak truth to power, but we must also speak truth to the powerless, because we need to deal with the fact that sometimes, there are things that they could change in themselves. That there are, what I was talking about the other day in Fortaleza, memory can be used to make us feel good about ourselves, to be proud of the things that we've done. But memory also should be used to make us, to disturb us, to make us feel that we ought to change some things in ourselves, to deal with the facts that we did wrong, to the mistakes, to the errors, which of course means that if we deal with that, we may not repeat them in the future. So I think this is basically it. In many ways, the correct scientific procedure and the correct ethical approach are very close to each other.
Nós, infelizmente, temos que ir terminando, mas eu faço uma última, na realidade, um pedido. O que é que recomendaria a nós aqui do Ceará, quando trabalhamos com todo esse mundo globalizado, para que possamos preservar as nossas identidades? O que é que acha que seria importante fazer?
Well, I think identity is not a fixed, permanent datum. Identity, you only preserve identity by changing it, by developing it, which I think has been the case all the time. Yeah. I mean, Ceará or Italy 100 years ago were not the same as here. So I think, once again, if we think of identity as the outside trappings of identity, the clothes you wear and the kind of food, this is all fine. But ultimately, I think what we need to preserve is a sense of critical and independent being in the world, and which you can do both, which I think can be done by navigating this very complicated, narrow path between remaining what you are and changing, between protecting yourself and opening up. And in a way, it's like dancing, you have to be yourself, but also follow the other.
O professor esteve no Brasil em 1998, no encontro, e o professor falou que o Brasil é um dos países mais importantes que desenvolve pesquisa com história oral. Eu pergunto, o senhor gostaria de vir para o Ceará para pesquisar, para conhecer a nossa realidade?
One always comes back with joy to this country, and I'm very curious about this part of Brazil, which I'm only now beginning to learn about, and I love doing field work, doing research. So why not? Let's see what the future brings.
Obrigada, Telma. Obrigada, professor Alessandro.
Obrigado.
E espero que em breve possamos voltar a nos reencontrar.